everybody. Hi! In today's video, I'm going to be showing you a Tom and Jerry design that is for the new Tom and Jerry movie, and it is very similar to a past Tom and Jerry design I did, like the same pose for Tom and Jerry, but it's got a New York like street view in the background of it, and it's a little bit more extreme and a little bit more crazy, so I love it. But if you do want to see that past video, I will put a link to it in the description box below. It was from almost exactly a year ago, so you can also see how much this one's grown and changed and all that jazz. So I hope you guys like this design as much as I do, and that new movie is coming out today, I'm pretty sure, unless they changed it, because they've been changing all the movie release dates these days, and I've been wrong a few times before. But either way, if you do go to see it, let me know how it is, because I know some people in my immediate realm are very excited for it. Anywho, I will see everybody next time. Bye!
So I'm going to begin with a layer of sky blue gel polish, and just a single layer. As long as it covers fairly well, that'll be good enough. So then cure that, and then I'm going to just kind of sketch in some really fluffy clouds with some white gel polish, and all the colors I'm using are from Madam Glam, except I would have to say for the silver one that happens to be Orly. But I'll put all the Madam Glam ones in the description box below. The silver one is called Silver Foil from Orly, and honestly, I don't recommend it because it doesn't cover that well. I don't know. I'm kind of a Madam Glam person. Once I started using them, I fell in love. So most of the time, I stick with it. It's totally sidetracked there. So we're going to start adding in our buildings in the background. And you want a variety of brown tones and silvers and grays. And they can be, you know, any kind of brown and silver and gray that you want. Just grab maybe 4 to 6 colors, I would say is a good number. And then you're going to just start drawing in your buildings. And you can look at a real New York City street view if you want. There are some movie posters for the new Tom and Jerry movie that you can use as reference, or you can just kind of go with the flow and do whatever your heart desires for this. So I actually use 4 colors, I'm sorry, 2 grays and 2 browns. So I have a lighter brown and a darker brown, and then a silver, and then more of a taupey gray, I guess you could say. So I'm going to use those colors for my buildings. And then after I have all my buildings sketched in, you want them tallest on the sides and then to get shorter towards the middle. I'm going to use some black gel paint to start adding all of the outlines and the details to my buildings. And I know that in the movie, all of the humans and the buildings and all of that stuff is real, it's live action. And it's only Tom and Jerry that are in a cartoon style, as well as I think there might be some birds and elephants too. But, you know, the animals are animation and the rest is live action. But for my buildings, I decided to do more of a cartoony style just because I thought it would be less of a culture shock look for the Tom and Jerry design, and I thought it would look a little bit more cohesive, I suppose. So I'm doing my buildings a bit more animation-y, so lots of outlines, kind of a goofy type style, and not too realistic. If you wanted to go total realism, good for you. I mean, that's fantastic. If you want to do it, all the power to you. Otherwise, I think that this is definitely a great alternative if you want to try to, make it a little easier on yourself. There's no problem at all doing it like this. So on your buildings, you're going to want to add some little dots for windows and possibly some stripes. Like I said, there are so many different reference photos for New York type skyscrapers and buildings that there are, if you just Google New York Street View, you will have photos for days. But you can kind of take what you want with it. The other thing I did with the black is on the tip of the nail, I added just the basic little start of my street. So keep going through, and then once you do a couple little bits of detail on the nail, cure it or flash cure it, just so don't forget to do that curing. And then add the different street lines on your street with yellow and white, and then apply some matte gel top coat over this nail, and now we can start working on our Tom and Jerry. So like I said, this is basically a very similar style, same pose as the original Tom and Jerry design I did about a year ago. But this time I'm doing it on a nail form backing instead of actually just sculpting it right on the nail, because I wanted this to sit kind of on the bottom of the nail, because if you looked at the street view, the road widened, so you could tell that, the perspective is it's coming toward you. But then Tom and Jerry are standing right in front of you if you're thinking of it that way. So they would be even closer, much larger, and kind of lower on the nail. So for that reason, I'm actually going to glue them on so they're sitting off of the nail, which will just kind of really add to that depth perspective. And to do that, you can't sculpt them off the nail directly on the nail, because that's just not how it works. You have to sculpt them separately. So it is a little different. And if you want to go back and you want to watch the other Tom and Jerry nail that I did, like I said, about a year ago, then you'll kind of see that it's a little different. Plus, doing something like this where it's the same thing and I've done it before and I'm doing it again, I usually don't like to do that. I'm kind of I've done that once, I don't need to do it ever again sort of person. But in this particular type of circumstance, occasionally redoing a past piece of work of yours is the best way to really see how much you have improved. And I recommend that for absolutely everyone. And not to just keep redoing this, like the same set of nails over and over and over again, but every once in a while just going and looking at something that you've done in the past and, think, okay, I'm going to redo this. I'm going to see, if I do it again, how I've improved, because that's the only way to really know and to judge is to, trust yourself and see what you've done and see what you've improved on. And so to do that, it's great to just do something twice every once in a while. The other thing that's great with doing something like that is that it really puts your own work into perspective, I guess, because especially in the age of social media, it is so easy to compare yourself to other people, and just not just art related, but general daily life. It's so easy to just compare yourself. And that is really a toxic mental thing, mental space to be in. And so if you get in the habit of comparing your work to your work, instead of comparing your work to somebody that lives 1,000 miles away from you on, some social media app, that's going to give you such a boost in confidence when you see how much your work is improving. So before you go and, compare your work to your idol on Instagram, just remember that, everybody's on their own journey, and that idol on Instagram is not always that good, because we all have to start somewhere. So if you want to just kind of take the moment and go back and do something you've already done, it is something that I find to be extremely rewarding. And, sometimes the differences are subtle, but there's always going to be differences. And as long as you keep practicing and you keep doing your art, you're going to see improvements all the time, continuously. It's just kind of how it works. So we're sculpting our Tom, and as you can see, we have the base of his head done. We have some peachy color in his ear, and we're going to start adding kind of some depth on his face. I'm not sculpting an incredible amount of depth on him. I'm doing it, a 3D style, obviously, but a little bit flatter than some things that I've done that are really, really dimensional and look like you could, they stand up off the nail practically. So just kind of doing layer by layer. I'm going to use yellow acrylic for his eye, for inside of each of his eyes, because they aren't white. Jerry's are white, but Tom's are a yellow color. So we're going to be filling those in with that yellow acrylic and just kind of pat them out and really give them nice rounded sides. Tuck them in from side to side if you need to, and just, you can keep messing around with them until they are cured. If you're not happy with them, you can just keep adjusting. Add a little bit more of a layer over his cheek that overlaps his little other cheek. See, that's the thing. I have such a hard time trying to decide what to call different parts of a cat, because there's like the little front part of their cheeks where their whiskers are, but then they have cheeks on the side. So whatever you want to call it. And then I decided that one yellow eye needed a bit more acrylic on it because it wasn't quite wide enough. So I'm just going to add some more there, and then some black on his nose and black for his eyebrows. And I've recently found that sculpting in a couple of the details with black is actually easier than painting them for me, because you can sort of stretch and pull the acrylic into the right shape instead of relying on a single brush stroke to do it perfectly the first time. The one downfall, though, is that, as you can see, sometimes black acrylic does tend to leave a smudgy stain near it on the areas around it. So if you are going to use black acrylic, be prepared to have to use some extra monomer just to kind of clean up the smudginess that may possibly occur. The other thing when you're doing that, and this is the same thing actually when you're using paint, is that you want to dilute the product slightly so for acrylic paint, if you're going to dilute it, you want to mix in a little bit of water. And if you're going to do it with acrylic, this, liquid and powder system, then you're going to want to just have it a little heavier on the liquid. It's, really easy. It's just the way that you pick up your bead of acrylic, and it's not, a huge deal. And if you don't dilute it, and because sometimes it's hard, definitely hard to get not only the right size of bead of acrylic, but the right ratio. There's a lot of little elements involved in that. And if you just get the right size of bead and you place it down and you need it to be a little bit wetter than what you originally grabbed, if you wipe your brush off in your paper towel, dip your brush again in the liquid, and then tap off a little bit while leaving some wetness in your brush, and then you tap the acrylic that is too dry, the too dry acrylic will suck in the extra moisture out of the brush, and it will hydrate it, and it will make it, it can help get it to the texture that you want it to be. So that being said, if you have a bead of acrylic that's too wet, get a dry brush. And that'll give you a better result than trying to use a wet brush on overly wet acrylic. It's going to make it even soupier and cause more problems. So remember that the texture of your brush and the moisture level of your brush will definitely affect your products. So we're sculpting Jerry on top of Tom's head, and we're doing the whole body of Jerry. And this is actually probably part of the reason why this particular Tom and Jerry design is so intriguing to me to keep doing, is because unless you make Tom absolutely humongous, Jerry is teeny tiny. And sculpting something that small takes an incredible amount of product control. It takes some patience, no doubt, and it's a challenge for sure. So this is a design that seems pretty, straightforward if you're somebody that's used to sculpting characters as I am. But then you go to sculpt Jerry and he's so tiny, you're like, oh geez, my eyes are going to go cross-eyed. So if you're looking for a challenge, this one might be a good one to try. We're going to add the same peachy color in Jerry's ear. So the start of Jerry is kind of like a caramel brown color, I suppose. So just going to be adding a little bit more texture to his face, and just keep adding details to him. As you are sculpting your characters, make sure that when you add a new layer onto it, that the layers underneath it are cured already, so that you don't A, have the colors blend together, or B, mess up the original layers by, poking them with the tip of your sculpting brush and changing how they are shaped. We're going to add the little bits of chin and cheeks on Jerry. Those are not white. They're more of a creamy off-white color. And then you're going to need to sculpt in his eyes too. That is with just white. I'm pretty sure on the original Tom and Jerry I painted on their eyes instead of sculpting them. That is certainly an option to take and, to do it that way if you would rather. Up to you. However you want to do it, go for it. Pretty much the end result is very similar in that circumstance. It's just whatever you're more comfortable with. You're going to add just the teeny tiny little black nose on Jerry, a couple more details on his legs. That's probably the hardest part with this design, is sculpting in all of his legs, because you see all four. You see both front arms and the 2 feet stick out to the sides. So there's a lot of elements here. And obviously we can't forget his skinny little tail. So sculpt that little tail coming up with the same color as his body for the acrylic. It's so thin though, be very careful when you take it off the nail from backing that it does not break. So just kind of keep your eye on it so that it doesn't snap off, because it is very delicate. And now we're going to be gluing that down. Make sure you stick some glue on that tiny tail and then press the tail onto the nail so that the tail is secure. And just hold that in place. And then after that, you can reinforce the back with either clear acrylic or clear builder gel. I ended up using clear builder gel because I started this nail on a different day than I finished it. And at the point where I was reinforcing the back, I no longer had acrylic out. So I was like, I'll just use clear builder gel because it's here. And then we're going to be adding all of our details to Mr. Tom and Jerry with black acrylic paint. And I guess just acrylic paint in general, because it's not just black that I used. But I'm going to start with black. And I'm going to keep with the heavily outlined trend, as I did with my buildings, onto Tom and Jerry, just to make sure that the design does have some cohesion to it, and kind of keep with the original style of Tom and Jerry. Even though in the new one, they're not quite as outlined and, intently, blocky looking, I suppose, as they were in the original cartoons. But I like the iconic look of them better usually. So we're just going to be doing a little bit of detail around. Like I said, Jerry is tiny, guys. I mean, absolutely puny. So if you are remaking this design and you are making them smaller, just be prepared that Jerry is going to be really, really small. And again, if you want to see kind of a comparison shot of new work to old work, I did a Tom and Jerry that wasn't 3D, but that was hand painted, I don't even know, a long time ago, I would guess 2016. And the difference in my work between 2016 or whenever that time frame was and now 5 years approximately is mind-blowing. So like I said, everybody starts somewhere. So if you're ever feeling discouraged about your work and you have a design that you have to throw away, remember that everybody does that. Everybody has a design that they just trash, and just keep at it. But this is it. This is the end design. We have some matte top coat over Tom and Jerry, and they are done. If you guys do see that new movie, I would love to hear how it is, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.